In the United States, major disasters and emergency events disrupt the lives of millions, resulting in lost homes, jobs, and other essential resources. To each survivor, the disaster can be the worst experience of their life. As the nation's lead federal agency in supporting disaster recovery efforts, FEMA provides services to assist survivors on the road to recovery through its individual assistance programs. When a disaster occurs, and upon the request of a governor, the President may issue a federal disaster declaration for that state. The declaration will define the geographical areas included in the declaration, as well as the types of federal assistance available, including individual assistance programs.
Individual assistance is that direct connection to the homeowner, to the individual that's affected by the disaster, whereas on the public assistance side, we're working more directly with the state and, for example, repairing infrastructure, roads, bridges.
This video focuses on 3 individual assistance programs for which FEMA has external partners or interagency agreements: disaster unemployment assistance, disaster legal services, and crisis counseling training and assistance programs. With its key partners, FEMA is able to offer survivors a wide range of services administered by experts for the best possible assistance. The Disaster Unemployment Assistance Program, known also by its acronym DUA, provides temporary benefits to individuals whose employment or self-employment has been lost or interrupted as a direct result of a major disaster, and who are ineligible for regular unemployment insurance.
FEMA did give the authority to the Secretary of Labor to administer the DUA program. The state unemployment insurance agencies administers the program on behalf of the U.S. Department of Labor because they have the infrastructure in place.
Farmers, small business owners, the self-employed, and others may be unable to work or acquire unemployment benefits.
It's just there to provide, a temporary financial assistance to a certain extent.
In the interagency agreement, FEMA funds the payment of benefits and reimburses administrative costs. The Department of Labor provides program oversight. DUA is administered by state unemployment insurance agencies on behalf of the federal government. To be eligible for DUA, individuals must meet certain conditions, which are listed in the DUA program information materials.
There are specific eligibility requirements that an individual must meet in order to qualify for disaster unemployment assistance. First of all, they have to be unemployed due to the disaster. They have to not be eligible for any other federal or state unemployment insurance. And they also have to be able and available, which means they have to be willing to work if a job is available.
In the event of a federally declared disaster, the affected state will publish an announcement about the availability of disaster unemployment assistance. Disaster survivors have 30 days from the date of the state announcement to apply for disaster unemployment assistance, and benefits can be paid up to 26 weeks. The State Unemployment Insurance Agency provides the application information and eligibility requirements. The program also provides a wide array of reemployment services, such as various training programs, job openings, and job counseling, free of charge. FEMA's Disaster Unemployment Assistance Partnership with the Department of Labor ensures that an individual who has lost employment due to a disaster is able to get back on their feet.
There are so many values to the Disaster Legal Services program. First and foremost is that it provides free legal services to disaster survivors, which allows them to get professional advice and consultation, and allows them to focus their energy and resources on recovery.
As a partnership with the American Bar Association Young Lawyers Division, the program provides free legal help to disaster survivors who have insufficient resources to obtain adequate legal services. The legal matters have to be directly arising from the disaster and cannot be fee-generated cases.
It allows them to help disaster survivors really focus on their recovery instead of having angst over legal issues that they never thought that they would have to deal with. And particularly in a stressful time period, to know that they can go and talk with a professional about their legal issues and that it isn't going to cost them really helps them on the road to recovery.
Lawyers answer questions on almost any legal issue that arises from the disaster, and all information provided through the DLS program is completely confidential. Assistance typically includes help with insurance claims for doctor and hospital bills, loss of property, and loss of life, drawing up new wills and other legal papers lost in the disaster, preparing powers of attorney, help with home repair contracts, providing advice on problems with landlords or tenants, and disaster-related disability assistance. When federal assistance is authorized, the declaration will define communities where individual assistance will be available. FEMA and representatives from the American Bar Association Young Lawyers Division will evaluate the need for DLS. If so, FEMA will contact the assigned Young Lawyers Division district representative to implement the program. They coordinate with local pro bono attorneys to establish a toll-free hotline that is promoted during the disaster.
They obtain the volunteers for the program, they set up the hotlines, they train volunteers, and they maintain representatives in every state to be able to quickly implement the program.
All calls made to the hotline are confidential and are forwarded to attorneys who can provide over-the-phone assistance. When needed, callers will be referred to an attorney who will provide representation free of charge. In some disasters, when conditions permit, volunteer attorneys will staff disaster recovery centers, which allow individuals to meet with an attorney face-to-face. The Disaster Legal Service Program illustrates FEMA's mission to give needed assistance to those recovering from a disaster.
I think one of the strengths of America is the fact that in times of need we all pull together to help each other, and this is the way that attorneys can help do that. They may not be good at helping reshingle a roof, but they can certainly look over a contract and give someone advice on it.
For more than 30 years, all levels of government emergency management officials have partnered with local behavioral health providers to help disaster survivors recover from the effects of a disaster through crisis counseling training and assistance programs, or CCP. CCP provides short-term behavioral health support when disaster response needs exceed the state's capacity. This is possible through an interagency agreement with the Department of Health and Human Services Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration, or SAMHSA.
SAMHSA and FEMA have an interagency agreement relationship that binds our services. SAMHSA is the avenue that FEMA uses to provide disaster behavioral health services.
In CCP, counselors take services into the communities rather than waiting for survivors to seek them, often meeting in survivors' homes, shelters, temporary living sites, and churches.
We're face-to-face, we're door-to-door, we're talking to individuals, we're talking to groups, we're talking to families within the communities.
The CCP seeks to empower survivors through educating them about disaster reactions, teaching them coping skills, assessing them for individual needs, and linking them to appropriate community resources.
The model is based on the premise that people are resilient, and so after a disaster, crisis counselors work with communities through psychoeducational materials and to give people the opportunity to voice what has happened and to help them to understand their reaction is normal to a disaster and to help them develop some coping mechanisms to deal with what they've experienced.
The CCP consists of two grant programs. The Immediate Services Program, also referred to as the ISP, provides funding for up to 60 days after the disaster declaration. For disasters requiring the continuation of services beyond the ISP, the Regular Services Program, or the RSP, is available and offers funding for up to 9 additional months. FEMA provides funds to SAMHSA, whose professionals have expertise in mental health services. SAMHSA's partnerships and training programs for state mental health agencies establish the infrastructure for CCP at the local level. State, tribal, and territorial governments provide crisis counseling services through contracts with local mental health providers that are familiar with the communities affected by the disaster.
One of the things that we promote is the hiring from within the community, primarily because those people within the community know their community. They are part of that community. They have pride in that community, so they want to see the community succeed.
The CCP is anonymous and does not collect identifying information or keep records or files.
We want to make sure that the community understands that we understand their need, we're empathetic, and we want to support them.
Requests can be made for populations that may require accommodations. For example, if the state identifies a community of people who are deaf or hard of hearing, they can request training for the crisis counselors on how to reach out to that population and to include a sign language interpreter.
The crisis counselors are trained to assess every situation. If they enter a home where there is an individual or group of individuals with functional access needs, the crisis counselors are trained and armed with an arsenal of resources.
Marketing or branding for the crisis counseling program is an important component. This branding helps identify the crisis counselors in the community as recovery outreach workers. An example of branding used in the state of Texas during Hurricane Ike was Texas Pride, standing for people recovering in spite of devastating events. In 2009, the U.S. territory American Samoa was devastated by an unprecedented earthquake and tsunami. What was at first a huge hit to the local economy became an opportunity.
It really totally wiped out a fishery, which employed the lion's share of the people within that community. We were able to go in and provide training, which is a lot of what we do, to these fishery workers, who then were able to in turn go to their communities and provide support, comfort, skills for the survivors.
On May 22, 2011, a Category 5 tornado destroyed a large section of Joplin, Missouri. The large-scale destruction to the community necessitated long-term community mental health assistance led successfully by Healing Joplin.
I think the most rewarding thing about the crisis counseling program is the fact that the community is so enthralled with them and has kind of adopted them as their own. It helps the community in terms of, giving jobs, but it also makes people feel more comfortable that people on that team, grew up here, understand this, are survivors of the tornado as well.
So we are very grateful that SAMHSA and FEMA have sponsored this program to be available in the community and to assist people not just for the short term, the first 60 days, but for the long term.
CCP provides support, education, and linkage to needed community resources.
I think a successful program is basically a program that provides the outreach to those that were impacted by this disaster, were able to be helped by this program and able to return to their lives and provide for their families and so forth.
The partnership that we have with FEMA is like none other. One of the things that we do is try to help the survivors gain some type of hope.
FEMA and its partners in individual assistance are committed to meeting the unique needs of all survivors who need help after a disaster.
I think that the human services programs are so vitally important because there aren't a lot of places for folks to go in the most dire time of need, and these really make a connection with individuals to provide different things. And what I think is really neat about these programs is they may all have different statutory authorities, but there's a clear relationship in supporting a disaster survivor, and it's really all built around the partnership between FEMA and other federal agencies and state and local partners, the private sector, faith-based organizations. They all come into play in assisting the disaster survivor.
For more information, contact your FEMA regional office.